Laura the Library Lady, and welcome to today's episode. Today I will be reading the book Neely Come, Neely Go. It's by Karen English, and the paintings are by Synthia St. James. And I believe this is a collage. A lot of children's illustrators use collage. This is also a Coretta Scott King award-winning book. And I love this book because it talks about a certain culture that very few people are familiar with and very few people experience firsthand. It really talks about a time in South Carolina. There are small islands. Some people refer to these islands as the Sea Islands. And these people who have lived here through slavery, some people refer to their language or dialect as Gullah. So let's jump right in. And this book has a slight dialect. It just depends, but it's, they live on an island off the coast of South Carolina, on an island. And the author does a really good job of giving some background information about this place. And that's what the book opens. And it's very, very pretty. I'll read one or two pages and I'll show the illustrations. Neeny coming tomorrow. Is that so? Dada asked, teasing me. Our grandma, no, Neeny is coming. She smiled at me and pulled a sheet from her basket and give it a big shake. The wind lifted it up and it flutter like the wing of a bird. Dada pinned it to the line. Dada's sheets are the whitest on this island. Everyone say so. So these are just pretty. And you can kind of see how the pattern of the language is. It's almost sing-song. And depending on who you are and where you are, hanging clothes on the line is something you may or may not be familiar with. My grandmother, I'm from Detroit, and my grandmother used to hang clothes on the line. And, my parents, they had a small house. It was on this small plot of land. So you had the house, front yard, backyard, driveway, and they did actually have a garage. I don't know if they ever used it. I can't remember. And my grandmother had a very small yard, and half of it was my grandfather's vegetable garden. And if you've seen my videos, you may have seen me talk about my grandfather. And so my grandmother would be out there putting clothes on the line, and our houses were right next to each other. So you had your house, you had your driveway, and you had your backyard, and then the very next house, and then the very next house. Now, we weren't row houses or townhouses or duplexes. Those are all names for the same thing. These were all single family homes, but they were small. To me, they were regular size, but it's all relative. And my grandparents lived off of 8 Mile. So when that young man who was a rapper did that 8 Mile, I said, oh, I knew that movie was from Detroit, because Detroit is 5 Mile, 6 Mile, 7 Mile. I used to live off of 7 Mile, 8 Mile, and then once you cross 8 Mile, you're in the suburbs, and then it goes all the way up to 15 Mile, I think. So the whole city is organized that way. And so that's something that I used to do with my grandmother, and it's pleasant. And she had a basket just like in this picture. So I'll read 2 more pages. I turn and run to the creek shore where Uncle Dink is mending his crab net. Neeny coming, Uncle Dink. He look up. Is that so? He shout back. It been long time, right? I run through the tall grass to meet Grandpa coming up the road in the ox cart. Grandpa, Neeny coming. She coming tomorrow. Yeah, sure, gal. We all know Neeny coming. Get in the wagon and I take you home. So this is great because I live in Maryland, not South Carolina, and there's a whole history of crabbing in this state, and there's a whole history of African Americans crabbing. And so since I'm from Detroit, I wasn't aware of that history that's here in Maryland. So I've been exposed to that by visiting St. Michael's, Maryland. And I love this because she's running and she's outside and she has a sense of freedom and she's familiar and she's not afraid. And I point that out because so few children play outside, at least where I live. And because everybody's inside doing this or playing a video game, which is fine. But as I said, when I was a kid, we were always in the street, always playing, always running, and always having fun. So this is the little girl speaking with her grandfather or grandpa. And he said, ox cart. So in the picture, or in the painting done by Miss James, we see the little girl. Her name is not introduced until the end of the book. And we see her grandfather. And so this is a little girl. This is her grandfather. We see the cart, and we see the backside of the ox. Now, you'll notice something if you go through this book. None of the characters in this book have a physical face. They have a head, but their face is implied. And that's part of a custom too. I know when I traveled to the Dominican Republic, they had a lot of dolls with no faces because, they felt that that was improper. And I believe it's the Amish, if they make their dolls, they have no faces. And different people believe different things. So I have a few dolls in my collection that have no actual eyes, lashes, mouth, and nose. So in a way that may seem strange, but it's such a well-written book, and it's so beautifully painted that you really don't notice that the characters don't have facial features. That's what I mean, facial features. But this allows you and your child, in your mind, as you're reading, to decide what these characters really look like. And the thing that I think is interesting is through this collage, all the characters appear to be young. A person that's very youthful is going to have very smooth skin, but if you say grandpa, grandma, then you're going to assume that people have more lines and things like that. But we also know if you live a simpler life, you're not stressed out. You may look younger as well. So I just thought that was very interesting. And she goes by the shore. She talks to an osprey in her nest. She sees seagulls on the seashore. So it really does put this character in her setting. I think the artist and the writer really talk about indirectly the setting. And this is a great book to talk about setting, especially if you're a person who lives in a totally different atmosphere or a totally different setting. And one thing we talk about when we write books, what is the setting, who are the characters, what is the action? So those are all terms. And when your child reads a book, do they understand the setting? Because that's part of the context. Do they understand who the protagonist is, who the villain is, if there's a villain, what is the conflict, or what, so all of these are components of a great story. Not all of these components are going to be in picture books. So this book is recommended for, I would say, 4 years old is a bit young, but I would say kindergarten through 2nd grade. And it's a wonderful book. You can get it at Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, any of your favorite online bookstores or bookstores in your neighborhood or where you live. And my favorite place, you got it, the public library. So this is a great book. I love it. I've had it for quite some time. And please enjoy. Thank you.